Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation, live from Studio B in Provo, Utah. Jarom Jordan alongside Dave McCann. I don't know if you're a video game guy at this point, Dave, but I don't play a ton of video games. But when I do, it's EA College Football 2013, which is the last, or 14, last edition they made. That game is coming back, baby. And for more on that and many things in the college sports landscape, we bring in Matt Brown, friend of the program from Extra Points Newsletter. Matt, can you confirm that you're not a guidance counselor and that these pennants are a choice behind you?
It's true. I only bought like 5 or 6 of these things from all places where I lived. And then over the course of this beat, you're on an interview with an AD or a president or something, and they go, well, why don't you have my school? Well, here's my P.O. box. You could send it to me, and I've been lucky. My favorite, though, is still very much the Best Dad University one that my kids made me for Christmas last year. Everything else, wonderful, but hard to beat that school.
Yeah, you can't beat that one. That one's undefeated. Hey, we've been talking about Pete Thamel's report on the future of college sports and the deep discussions that are said to be underway in settlement ideas for the battle with the NCAA and what to do about revenue sharing for athletes. So let me start with this question. At what point do you think you'll be back on this show to discuss the fact that college athletes are going to get paid like employees?
Well, it's a good question. I've been hearing on the AD and commissioner side for a couple of months that a settlement in the House case was the most likely outcome. If that case goes to trial, which is scheduled for next year, and the NCAA lost, they were looking at $4 billion in damages, which the NCAA, like in Indianapolis, does not have. The major conferences are also named defendants in that case, and that would end up being a really significant liability for every member institution of those schools. So, but the big question, I think, for me, isn't so much, does this settlement happen? And I think it does potentially in the next 60 days. It's going to be what happens after that, because if you create a revenue sharing plan without somebody else on the bargaining table to negotiate with, in the pro sports, we have unions, we have somebody else for CBA. If you impose that unilaterally without solving the employment question, I believe, and I've heard this from other people in the industry, you have the risk for additional litigation, and that we could be doing the same song and dance again 6 months from now until there's bigger solutions. If you are somebody who is a football or basketball player in a power conference, though, I continue to believe it's very likely in the near future you will be getting some kind of direct revenue from your institution rather than a third-party collective or a donor bagman before the end of your eligibility. We are definitely moving in that direction.
And for most of them, they probably don't care where it comes from, just as long as it's coming in, right? What is it that is still left in the conversation of making this nearly fully professional, but you just happen to go to some classes and represent a certain university year to year?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because when you talk to the university presidents, almost universally, they're very against the idea of classifying athletes as employees. Yeah. And there's some political and legal reasons for this, right? Someone's an employee, they can get workers' comp, you have to pay payroll and social security taxes, depending on the state, maybe they can unionize, and then you have some states where unionization of a public employee might be legal and some where it's not legal, and it creates a lot of other regulatory issues. But part of the challenge is if you start to share tens of millions of dollars of revenue with somebody for their performance and you control them like an employee, it becomes increasingly difficult to argue in front of a judge that they're not an employee. And I think what's one of the really fascinating questions to me over these next several months is for universities that can afford to pay athletes as employees, and I would think BYU would be one of those, along with Utah and potentially others in this market. I think the big question is, are they comfortable doing that ideologically? The amateur sports, as we might have, defined them in the early 1900s, that hasn't existed for a long time. And the kind of window of how we define amateurism changes. But at some point, some schools might decide, we could afford this, but this isn't what we signed up for, and this isn't what we want to do. And I wouldn't be shocked if there are institutions throughout the country, perhaps Ivy League institutions, perhaps religious institutions, perhaps other kinds of schools that say, we'd rather operate in a Division III model, even though we have a big television contract, than pursue something that's explicitly baby NFL. And that's going to be a question that I think every regent and president and sponsoring institution needs to ask themselves right now.
Or even get out of sports altogether, as expensive as it is and how hard it's getting. And oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, please. No, please. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, I say one thing that's adding to the saga is the transfer portal, which today has 2,000 kids in the basketball portal. Portal closes today, and I'm not exactly sure what that means because it seems like it's open all the time. But this unlimited transfer rule, which allows kids to go whenever they want, wherever they want, has added to the chaos on the other side, as they're all free agents.
Yeah, it's been an enormous struggle for coaches and for people that work in operations and work in administration, even if they're not against athlete mobility or sharing revenue opportunities with athletes, just because you don't know who's on your team. And that the roster management has become even more explicitly transactional than it has been before. I think another one of the challenges in the system that probably doesn't get talked about enough is that the more you transfer, the harder it is to get your credits to move over from institution to institution and to progress towards a degree, right? There are classes that are part of the standard BYU curriculum that might not neatly fall into the major at somebody attending a secular university and the other way around. And so I think that there's a risk, and we're starting to hear about this a little bit as players are looking for third or potentially their fourth school and realizing I'm going to lose a whole year of academics if I move here because a lot of my credits don't transfer. The only way to really stop this, though, is to do the thing that schools are really reluctant to do, which is treat them and classify them as employees, right? For the rest of us, if there's somebody that wants to hire us, most of us can leave our jobs whenever we want, or potentially pay some kind of contract buyout. We have free agency in other industries. We have that for regular students. There's nothing stopping anybody from leaving BYU and going to UVU to study computer science. If you want to stop that, there's legal classifications that have to change that not everybody really wants to do.
We're talking to Matt Brown of Extra Points newsletter on BYU Sports Nation. Let's now talk about perhaps the most important subject in the history of sports subjects, which is EA Sports. College football is coming back, baby. You've been leading the charge on a lot of information here. What is the latest? When can we expect the game this summer?
You can expect the game this summer in July. I've reported a couple of times the game is expected to come out on the 19th. EA hasn't officially confirmed that, but that's been pretty consistent from my sourcing. The reason that I think I'm getting on more of these shows this week is I found out who's going to be on the cover of the game. Kind of negotiated with EA because they're like, please don't give the exact names, but you can give some clues here. But what I can tell everybody is that it's more than one athlete because there's more than one cover of the game. If you buy Madden, you buy NBA 2K, there's like a standard and a deluxe and super fancy deluxe version. So there's going to be multiple athletes. They play different positions. They come from different conferences. And they're all in power leagues. So I think I can say this without like black helicopters coming and taking me away here. There's going to be a Big 12 athlete who's a current college football player who will be on one of these covers. And if you want to see who it is, EA should release that information, I think, in the next 2-ish weeks.
How are they capturing the uniqueness of say, BYU, for example, and its traditions?
Sure.
How is that being added into this game?
I think that's been one of the most fun things about this story to really track, because college football is such a very different animal from professional football because of all of those little traditions and little bits of pageantry and local tweaks that make going to every game so completely different. And that's something that EA has spent a lot of time and energy on and working with schools to make sure that they're depicting the game day environment of each school as accurately as possible. So specifically for BYU, that means not just hundreds and hundreds of photographs of LaVell Edwards Stadium. I think many of these were taken before recent renovations, but then like they send a blueprint so you can make sure the stadium looks exactly like it does in glorious, digitally rendered 3D. But also asking schools, hey, what audio do you play during pregame? What audio do you play on third downs? What are crowd chants that are not R-rated that we can put in this game that other schools are doing here, right? What songs besides your fight song are you putting in? Because they want it to seem like playing a game at Utah or at BYU or at Minnesota looks and feels very different. I've gotten some of that information here through open records requests. Can't really do that at BYU because it's a private school, but I have talked to people there, and I think one thing I can explicitly confirm from both BYU and Electronic Arts is that popcorn popping will not make an appearance.
I was going to ask that
game.
exact question, Matt.
Of course, it's funny because like I was talking with somebody at EA. He was like, about BYU submissions. I joked like, listen, I'm gonna push in all my chips and put in every bit of influence I have here. I don't care if BYU put that song in the game. I will tell you, no, that's a deeply offensive anti-LDS slur. You can't possibly put that in there. It'd be super offensive. Thankfully, it didn't come to that. But if you want this game to have primary music, you're just going to have to overdub it yourself because it won't be in there.
Hey, Matt, we've got a favor to ask because we expect you'll be one of the first to see this game. And if and when that's the case, and you're certainly welcome back on this show anytime, we want you to find out who the starting quarterback is for BYU and then tip us off.
If I get that information before Kalani shares it with everybody, I will be happy to text it.
That would be awesome. How did we know it was Gary Bohannon or Jake Retzlaff? EA Sports. It's in the game.
Wouldn't that be appropriate?
Shedeur Sanders is my guest for the Big 12 cover, by the way. So, yeah, there you go.
Well, I can't say that on the air or not, but sure, that could be a guess.
Yeah, okay. Indeed it is. Matt, we appreciate the time. Thanks for the latest on popcorn popping in college football 2024. Thanks, man.
Anytime, fellas. Thanks for having me.